natural harmonics, magical things. They're where you take your fretting hand finger, lightly touch the string over the desired fret, and then pluck with your picking hand. Simple, but very effective. I use them all the time in my own compositions. They appear so much in lots of fingerstyle and classical guitar repertoire, and that is why I thought I'd do a little video with 10 top tips and things to try to help you with your own natural harmonics. So number one, find your best finger placement. We're often taught with natural harmonics that you should place the finger directly over the metal of the fret before you pluck, rather than a little bit lower where you'd normally play the note. And of course that is true, but sometimes, depending on the context, that's not always possible. So you can actually get away with a little bit of wiggle room here. You can actually find harmonics in the kind of region around the fret. I mean, the sweet spot is probably directly over the metal, but you can get a perfectly satisfactory one kind of just a millimetre or two either side, and that can be really helpful if you're in a piece where you can't quite manage to get the perfect placement. For example, if I take this kind of voicing of an E minor chord and I wanted to put a 12th fret harmonic up there to kind of flesh it out, it's very tricky for me to get right over the sweet spot there, and you can see my finger isn't even on its tip. It's really straight and flat, and I'm getting slightly lower than the perfect placement, but still you get a perfectly serviceable harmonic out of that shape. So when you're practicing your own natural harmonics and finding them in different contexts in your pieces, just have a little play around with the best position for your finger, not just for the sound of the harmonic, but for everything else that you're playing around it as well. Number two, don't rush the release. So when you play a harmonic, the temptation is obviously to remove the finger from the string nice and quickly in order for it to chime and sustain. And that's great, but when you first learn how to do these harmonics, there might be a little bit of a temptation to try and do it at exactly the same time as you pluck the string. And the problem with that is that that can happen, and you can miss the harmonic as a result because you're kind of doing two things completely simultaneously. Really what you should be doing is lightly touch the string, pluck, and then release your fretting hand finger. And it's amazing how long the finger can actually stay on the string before having to move it to get a really nice sound. So don't rush your release in case you miss your harmonic, and I can tell you that from bitter experience because I've certainly missed my fair share of harmonics over my playing career. Number three, don't be afraid to dig in. Harmonics can often sound like they're quite delicate and as a result need to be played very lightly. And of course they can be played lightly, but they can also be played exceptionally powerfully, and you shouldn't be afraid to really dig in with your picking hand when you're playing a harmonic. And it's worth experimenting with it. See how loud you can go. The limit of volume of your harmonics is nothing to do with your left hand so much as it is to do with your picking hand and how much force you're putting into the string down there. As long as you've got a nice placement of the fretting hand finger, you should be able to get a harmonic at whatever volume you want. Number four, explore your picking hand position. You can play a natural harmonic with your picking hand close to the neck of the guitar to give you a certain sound. Or you can play closer to the bridge to give you a different sound. And of course there's everything in between. And what I like to think of is that if you want a soft sounding harmonic with not as much attack, you can play it closer to the neck. If you want something with a bit more bite to it, then the bridge is probably the place to go for that. So it's worth experimenting with your picking hand position there, because it's really nice to be able to pick the kind of sound of the harmonic that you're playing depending on the context. Number five, find the weird ones. So commonly we find natural harmonics at the 12th fret, 7th fret and 5th fret. We can also find some interesting ones, for example at the 4th fret and the 3rd fret even, and maybe even beyond that. I kind of think you might be able to find a harmonic anywhere if you're determined enough, but those are some options for you to explore. But one thing I wanted to draw your attention to is something interesting that happens around those 4th fret and 3rd fret harmonics. Because at the 12th, 7th and 5th, the sweet spot for your harmonic positioning for your fretting hand finger is directly over the metal of the fret. But at 4th fret, I find that the sweet spot is actually just slightly behind the fret. And then for the 3rd fret harmonic, it's kind of the opposite, slightly above the fret. Which is kind of interesting. So when you're exploring those, don't be afraid to move away from the metal of the fret to find that sweet spot for you. It's worth saying that you can find natural harmonics above the 12th fret as well. For example, if you head up to the 19th, you get the same set of harmonics as you do at the 7th fret. And then if you're feeling brave, you can move up beyond the fretboard and you can find the same harmonics as you did at the 5th fret. So there's lots of options to explore, and I'd certainly encourage you to do so. Number 6, find harmonic chords. So if you can combine multiple natural harmonics at once, you can create some lovely sounding chords indeed. Something like this, for example. So what I was doing there was fretting a 5th fret harmonic on the 6th string, a 4th fret harmonic on the 5th string, and a 7th fret harmonic on the 4th string. Plug that together, you get a lovely sounding chord there. Then we can fret the 7th fret harmonic on the 6th string, and then the 5th fret harmonic on the 5th string and 4th string by flattening your first finger across both of them. Pluck that, and then finally we can move up to the 12th frets and play the 12th fret of the 6th string, 3rd string, and the 2nd string. And you could do that by using 2nd, 3rd and 4th fingers on their tips, or just slap a finger across all of them at once. And you can combine those 3 shapes. So it's definitely worth exploring some harmonic chords when you're looking at natural harmonics. Number 7, try muted harmonics. Up until now, everything has been quite chimey and sustainy by removing the picking hand from the harmonic after you've played it. But you could always not do that and just leave the finger on the string, and that generates a slightly more muted sound for your harmonics, which actually can be really quite nice in certain circumstances. You could try just slapping a finger across the 12 frets of the 2nd and 3rd strings and just walking across them with that muted idea. Sounds quite different to if you're just letting them sustain. And it's worth saying, the more pressure you apply to the strings when you're doing that muted harmonic, the more muted they will sound. So I could do a very light mute here, and then apply some more pressure. You still get the harmonic sound, but it becomes more and more muted, just in the same way as, for example, when you're palm muting normal notes, the more of the palm you bring onto the string, the more muted the sound is going to be. I actually use this technique in a tune of mine called Dragonflies, Frogs and Bumblebees, where I kind of bounce between muted harmonics and normal notes. It sounds a little bit like this. I really just quite like the rhythmic sound that they give. So whilst chiming harmonics are very lovely indeed, muted ones can also be really interesting to explore, so I would encourage you to do so. Number 8, try them with normal notes. So you could have created a little harmonic melody, something like this, for example. And you might want to apply a bit of an accompaniment to that using just a normally played note. So let's give that a try. So that was just applying a very simple little bass line idea at the same time as those harmonics. And it's a really nice thing to be able to do, really lovely texture. Can be a bit fiddly, of course, because, for example, if you're having to hold a normal note while stretching for a harmonic, the placement can be a bit tricky. But that's why we talked earlier about how to find the best finger placement depending on the context you're in. So do have some fun taking some natural harmonics and threading them around some normal notes and see how that sounds for you. Number 9, double touch harmonics. These are interesting things. So as we talked about earlier, commonly we find natural harmonics at 12th, 7th and 5th fret. And it's worth noting that the 12th fret harmonic that you get is an octave higher than your open string. Then the 5th fret harmonic is an octave higher again. So you get 3 octaves from that. So you get the open, the 12th fret harmonic, and you get your 5th fret harmonic. But the 7th fret harmonic is just 1 octave above the fretted 7th fret note, but we don't have the octave above that as well, or do we? Well, yes, we do via double touch harmonics, which is where you simultaneously imagine you're going to do a harmonic at the 7th fret and the 12th fret at the same time. So I'm touching both of those areas in exactly the same way as I would normally make a harmonic. And you just pluck it and you get yourself another octave. So we have the fretted note, we have the 7th fret harmonic, an octave higher, and we can have an octave higher again via the double touch harmonic. So again, it's just about giving you all the options that you could possibly need with natural harmonics. And these double touch harmonics are a bit of a fiddle at first because of that stretch between first finger and little finger that you need for them, but they're quite satisfying when you get them. And finally, number 10, tremonics. This is basically the idea of combining natural harmonics with another technique, in this case, tremolo. So tremolo, harmonics, tremonics. I love tremolo, I love harmonics, and I love how they sound together. So you could kind of fret the 12th fret, for example, for the tremolo pattern, and then just work between some other harmonics for the accompaniment. And that's a nice combination between a chiming harmonic and a muted harmonic. Gives the tremolo a nice kind of texture to it. But you could also try something like this. We're just doing this repeating pattern, using harmonics on 12th fret and 7th fret, and then bringing that pattern of tremolo across the strings. And that's a technique that I use in a piece of mine called Rain on Qingming Bridge, which I'll link for you to have a listen to if you'd like. So never be afraid to take some natural harmonics and just throw in some other techniques to see how they sound together. A personal favourite of mine, get the tremolo and harmonics working together for some lovely tremonics. So there you go, folks. That was 10 top tips and ideas to try for your natural harmonics. But I would love to hear from you down in the comments. Did I miss anything? Do you have any other questions about harmonics? Or maybe there are some other techniques you'd like me to treat in a similar way. Let me know and I will do my best. All right, that's it for now. Thanks very much. I hope you have a lovely day.